Hi, this is Tim Talks from ShanghaiEye. I'm Timothy Pope, and I'm taking a look at how... Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Tim Talks from ShanghaiEye. I'm Timothy Pope, and I'm taking a look at how China is perceived and portrayed around the world. At the end of last month, China's top leadership held one of its periodic meetings. That's the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China Central Committee, generally shortened to the Politburo. And the meeting obviously made the news. In fact, a lot of people were closely watching it for signs that there would be some measures unveiled to help give the Chinese economy a bit of a lift. But the meeting's communique included one very surprising line that has probably made some people pretty worried. That line translates to something like this: "It's necessary to strengthen industry self-discipline and prevent involute, vicious competition." Now you might be thinking, what a tangle of meaningless jargon. But this sentence actually acknowledges a huge issue facing the Chinese economy, and it's something that we haven't really seen addressed so publicly before. So let's unpack it, starting with the word which I saw for the first time a couple of years ago in a Chinese government press release: involute or involution. If you're a math or biology geek, you might be familiar with this one, but I was always a humanities nerd, so I had to look it up. And as far as it applies to math, I still don't understand it. But then I came across the anthropologist Clifford Geertz's theory of economic involution, and this, for me at least, was much easier to grasp. Here, involution describes a situation where increasing input doesn't lead to a growth in output. It's like the law of diminishing returns. So why is the Politburo so concerned about it? This vicious competition, which sounds, well, I mean, it really sounds perfectly normal in the business world, if you ask me. But let's have an example. China's car industry. It's one of the best examples of one that's at risk of involution. There's a price war raging in the market, and more companies are pumping out more and more cars for lower and lower prices. In the past, this kind of thing has really been a dominant feature of the Chinese economy. Do whatever it takes to get rid of the competition and dominate the sector. And then you can focus on making a profit later once you've driven the competition out of business. In the last decade, it's happened in several industries: in ride-hailing, in shared bikes, and now in electric vehicles. But when it moves into manufacturing, this kind of business practice can have broader effects up and down the industrial chain. A think tank advising China's powerful National Development and Reform Commission, which we always call the country's top economic planner. Damn, I lost my place. Oh, I am boiling. Is there anyone have a tissue? Because I'm like literally sweating. But when it moves into manufacturing, this kind of business practice can have a huge effect up and down the industrial chain. A think tank that advises China's powerful National Development and Reform Commission, which we always call the country's top economic planner, said that auto industry profit margins fell by 5% in the first half of 2024. And that as automakers seek to reduce costs so that they can make their cars cheaper than the other guys, they'll try and pay less for parts, or just even default on payments to parts makers. That means that the parts supplier then has to cut costs there so that they can make up for the fact that they haven't been paid, which can then potentially drive down quality and even put parts makers out of business. Eventually, the think tank says, this short-sighted competitive strategy, as they put it, leads to involution and can potentially even destroy an entire industry. Want an example of an industry where that might be starting to happen? Look no further than China's solar panels makers. The price of Chinese-made solar panels fell more than 40% last year. Because it's a sector that the Chinese government sought to foster, There were just way too many companies making solar panels, all of them fighting to be the cheapest. But the tide is now going out for that sector. There's massive input and massive output, way more than anybody needs. And when everybody is spending all of their time, money and effort trying to put each other out of business, that means that they're not spending money on research and development. So involution may actually be denying us a major technological breakthrough in solar technology. At a meeting of China's Photovoltaic Industry Association back in May, they were all talking about vicious competition and involution too. There were calls for more mergers and acquisitions in the industry, some consolidation and so on. They're at the point where they're willing to try anything to try and keep the price up on solar panels. There was discussion at this meeting about futures contracts for solar panels as yet unmade. And all the while, many of the association's member companies are still announcing major expansion plans, new factories, new production lines, still desperate to screw each other. No Chinese industry can risk getting itself into this situation. Everyone loves a slogan, but damn it, this is the old version. This doesn't have the China Daily bit. The China Daily bit is the one I printed, but I must still be downstairs. Hang on, I've got it here. No Chinese industry can risk getting itself into this situation. A recent editorial in the China Daily called for authorities to come up with an institutional solution. The piece used a bit of a mixed metaphor involving cakes and pies and talked about factor resource endowments. But what it was really arguing was that competition doesn't grow if an industry turns to evolute. Damn it, I'll start that line again. No Chinese industry can risk getting itself into this situation. A recent editorial in the China Daily called for authorities to come up with an institutional solution to this problem. The piece used a bit of a mixed metaphor involving cakes and pies and talked about something called factor resource endowment. But what it was really arguing was that competition doesn't grow if an industry turns to involution. Only innovation leads to growth. Now, everyone loves a slogan, and China really loves a slogan. One of these is the so-called New Three: solar panels, electric vehicles, and lithium-ion batteries. They're a bit of a point of pride because they show a marked evolution from China's old three export sectors: clothing, furniture, and home appliances. But the latest announcement from the Politburo seems like an admission that the government knows that it needs to keep these three sectors on a tighter leash, or that evolution will turn to involution, and it won't end well. Thanks for watching. Leave us your thoughts in a comment below. Bye-bye.